Hello, 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 and welcome to the Place to Soar, where our motto is step out and redesign, and the focus is always on you. This is Anita Russell. I'm so glad to be here. I'm your host for today, and this is Gail Talaferro, my good friend and your co-host. And we have a very, very special surprise for you. We have a very dear friend of both Gail and me.
Yes.
Her name is Loren Johnson-Rosa.
Hello, ladies.
And I'm going to start off by reading her bio, and then we're going to jump right in and let her tell her story.
Ooh,
okay?
Scandal.
Loren Johnson-Rosa is a licensed clinical social worker serving families throughout the state of New Jersey. Her career spans 15 years of service to children, families, and child-serving organizations. She began her service with the Trenton community and later branched out to other counties within the state of New Jersey. Dedicated to working with children and their families, Loren enrolled at Rutgers University, where she earned not just a bachelor's, but she earned a master's in children and family counseling with a concentration in drug and alcohol studies. Loren has a passion for helping the disenfranchised. She's worked in the field of HIV/AIDS education and prevention. She's worked with individuals receiving temporary assistance to needy families. She developed a program in conjunction with Urban League, a program called Tender Loving Care, which was designed for pregnant teens and their babies. And she's had a position with the Juvenile Justice Commission over there working with young males in New Jersey correctional facilities.
Yes.
The great thing about Loren is, having done all of that, working full-time, she decided to have her own business. So she recently opened up her own business, and it is called We Help People.
Yes.
And it was birthed, now I love this statement, it was birthed with a focus on becoming a brick in the foundation of those trying to establish themselves within society's norms. Tell me about this brick. That just sounded intriguing when I read that.
Well, I think as a therapist, whenever you're trying to assist people with learning what their little idiosyncrasies are, because usually they know what they are, they just don't want to either acknowledge them or they're deep down inside, that if you just give them information later on in life as they're going down the Yellow Brick Road, I'm one of those bricks that they are going to retrieve. But it all kind of started with my son, Timothy Jamal Miller. He is the reason why I got into being a therapist, because he had some struggles. To God be the glory, he doesn't have them now. But he did not have an understanding of who he really was. And so he would do bizarre things that, he just did stuff. And when I say stuff, it was alcohol, it was drugs, it was not girls, women, because my son is extremely charismatic. And I was like, okay, I need to get somebody to help this little boy because he's out here running crazy. So I took him to therapists. And the folks that were there trying to give us the guidance and counseling had no clue on how to address the needs of a little African-American male. With that, I said, okay, I now see that perhaps this might be an avenue that I need to explore a little bit. So I started reading about different things, and I was working at Johnson-Rosa then, and out of the clear blue sky, I got laid off. I was like, what the devil? What does that mean? I was good. I was a customer service manager, doing really well. And they said, okay, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was the beginning of my life transition process. At that time, I said, okay, what am I going to do now? Because at that point, I was kind of a money grubber kind of person, where everything was about money. So I was used to getting money. So I figured, okay, what can I do now? And I said, okay, computers back then was the big deal. So I said, okay, I'm just going to learn how to build computers and do all that stuff. But that's just
build computers.
Yeah, that's
nice.
Just you and the computer. There is no communication, nobody talking to you. I'm a people person, so I needed to have some, interactions with people, not with the little machines.
Right.
So I went back to school, and as I was taking my niece Tracy Livingston, who has her RN now, she was going to school at Mercer County, and I was reading her pamphlet, and it said people who are on unemployment can go to school for free. I was like, bingo.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow.
I said, okay, let me do that. And I don't know, unemployment, I don't know if you guys have ever been on unemployment and know anything about unemployment, but it doesn't ever last for 2 years. It lasted for 2 years for me. Have no idea why,
Oh, wow.
how. Well, I do know. Grace of God.
Grace of
you
God,
know,
yes.
favor. I had it. Sometimes have it now. But needless to say, I went from completing my bachelor's and did advanced study to get my master's. In that transition, I started I laid on the couch myself because I believe that it's important to know where your struggles are before you go out and try and help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a therapist, really cool guy. He was really nice, you know. And he helped me understand that I shouldn't feel guilty about my son because he was incarcerated a couple times, and he's incarcerated now, but doing God's will, which is something that people don't really understand. There's a path that everybody has to take,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a path that you say, okay, I want to go on this, I want to do this. No, it's the path of life. And for a lot of people, it can be easy, and then for some people, it's not as easy. He just decided one day that he was going to be this gangster blood gang dude that was doing all kinds of stuff. And I was like, okay, who are you? Because I grew up here in Princeton. We don't have that, although they have wannabe people now, but it wasn't anything like how he was. But I knew he wasn't really doing what God called him to do, because when he was a little boy, he would be upstairs reading his Bible. And I was like, okay, whose little kid is this? Because I wasn't always saved. I am saved now.
Yes.
But I wasn't always saved.
Well, we all been there, so definitely.
So for him, you know, in some of his things that he did with the gang guys, instead of having them get beat up, he would have them write essays, why you should or why you shouldn't or why, whatever, but writing.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. I was like, Timo, who does that? And he's like, Mom, this is my thing, and he was just really cool about it. So that happened for a little while, and then he got arrested for guns and went back to jail, came out, but while he was in there, he met this gentleman, Brother Frankie, really great guy. I've never met him, but we talk on the phone all the time. And he said, Sister Loren, Brother Timothy keeps me up all night asking me questions about God. I was like, Really? I was like, okay, he's coming. He's coming, Lord, thank you. And when he got out, he really, really was into learning about who God was and what he needed to do for his family. He got married. He has 4 children. But he didn't have the support that he needed to keep up what to do when you get out of jail, how to deal with crisis, how to deal with baby mama drama, how to deal with all that. And there wasn't any male role models that really were there to help him understand that and navigate it. So, as people, we navigate to the things that we know. So he went back doing the things that he knew. And this time, it cost him a little bit longer. But when he was sentenced, the judge was so pleased because he was able to say, I'm free. Even though you might see me as being incarcerated, I'm free. And when I think about that, I was able to say, I'm free too, because my son is not dead, because he could be, because a lot of his friends and the things he was involved with, people shoot you, you get shot. He got shot by a policeman running, and the policeman was maybe 25 feet away, which is kind of close, where he could have been shot in the chest. He got shot in the foot. And I told him, I said, that was to stop you from running from your destiny. And he really understood that. And from that day, he has moved, and now he's doing seminary classes. But I say all that to say that life transition for him transitioned me. Because the first time he got arrested and got in trouble, I was like, oh no, we don't do this. This is not jail. We don't, this is not part of our life. And so I was very angry, very nasty, very bitter.
Do you have other kids as well?
I have a daughter.
Okay, so how did that whole dynamic impact your daughter?
Well, we asked that. Timmy and I asked, Talisha, how, because, mommy spent a lot of time with me.
Right.
Did that affect you? And she said, no, mommy spent a lot of time with me too. So
okay.
The thing is, I've always learned that I'm good with 2 kids. Like now I have 5 grandchildren. I didn't know how to juggle that. That was a whole new story, but I'm working on it. Mm-hmm. But with my son and my daughter, I knew how to balance, because Timmy needed this, Talisha needed this. So Talisha was involved with dance and arts and things like that. Timmy was in basketball, baseball, and doing those things. So I kind of balanced it. But as I started traveling with my job, Johnson & Johnson, Talisha was stable. Timmy decided,
And which one is older?
She's older.
Oh, she's older.
But he really acts like he's older. He acts like he's the dad. He tries to take care of us, right? But now, in the process, as I look back in my life, I started to kind of figure out, okay, from living here in Princeton, sheltered, looking through the glass bubble, being told I could only work at the university or work at the hospital or be a secretary somewhere, to where I am now as an entrepreneur. It's like, woo, by the grace of God. And so, I mean, everybody has their own relationship with God, and I really grew up here at Mount Pisgah. We went to church, but it wasn't church like how, there wasn't a relationship with God. And when you learn that, it's really different. And so I remember the first time I knew that there really was a God. I was working at Johnson & Johnson in New Brunswick. I moved out into Ewing Township. And back in the day, we had to buy telephones, go to the telephone store. Mm-hmm. And the lady said that you won't have a phone for 10 days. And I was like, oh my God, my baby's going to be here. I don't know how I'm going to know if they come home from school. And I worried. And I said, okay, but this is what it is. God, you're able. I've been saying God, you're able for so long. That's just my mantra.
Yes.
So I came home. It was a Princess phone. Put it on the wall in the kitchen, and the light came on. I was like, oh, this is cute. I put the receiver up, and I had a dial tone. Now, mind you, that was that day. 10 days is when they said I could get it. That was that day.
Okay.
That's when I said, oh, there's a God that I serve. And from that time on, I've gotten closer and closer. Then I stopped because I've had some experiences with pastors that weren't so happy.
But let me ask you a quick question. First of all, you talked a lot about transition, and that is one of our core values, and just helping people to kind of get to a place where they can manage the transitions that they're going through in their life, whether it's a positive or a negative, or it's transformative or restorative or whatever. Okay. So can you talk a little bit more about how the concept of transitions helps you in the work that you actually do?
Okay, so sometimes you wonder why you have to go through certain things.
Yes.
Okay, and so I've gone through a gamut of things. I'm grateful that my mom is not alive, because she would be rolling over trying to kill me if she found out some of the things I did. But I think those things help me to have a better understanding of people who are in situations. So for example, being on welfare, TANF, what that meant, how food stamps and how $360 a month, how you're feeding your family, paying the rent, gas, all that. I wasn't used to that. I was kind of a spoiled. I'm the baby, and my dad and my mom kind of spoiled me, and my aunts and people spoiled me. I'm just going to say I was a spoiled kid. But as I grew up...
But you weren't an only child, though, right?
No,
okay.
But I'm the baby.
Oh, the baby, yes.
And I'm the only one that went to college.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that happened for me that didn't necessarily happen for my sisters. And so it really kind of changed dynamics about things because learning how to deal with relationships is paramount in learning how to be a therapist because you can't judge. That's just like out of the question. Like what you need to do with your child is do so and so. No, you can't do that. First of all, when people were telling me what you need to do, I was like, okay, listen, you don't live in 2016.
Right,
How you gonna tell me what to do at my house? So I don't go in someone's home and tell them what to do. I let them explain to me where they are, and I meet them where they are. So if you are struggling with a child who is not cleaning up their room, well, why aren't they cleaning up their room? What have you taught them? Because a lot of times people will want things for their children that they don't show their children how to do.
Oh, yes.
So they will say, well, they need to do this and they need to do that. But then your house is looking like, somebody ran and just said,
Yes.
throw your stuff away. So if you don't want them to keep their room untidy, then you need to learn how to tidy your things up. And so learning how to say that in a nice, graceful way.
Because it's modeling behavior.
It is, exactly.
Yeah.
And what people have a tendency to believe is that it's inner city folks who live like that, as opposed to people who live in the mansions, in South Brunswick or Monmouth Junction, wherever. I've gone in some of those homes and said, oh my God. So, and it's actually been the opposite, that when you have very little, you tend to want to take care of it. When you have a lot, it kind of goes...
You take it for granted.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so learning core values to teach children and families, what are your core values? Because what mine are may not be yours, and what hers are may not be yours. Doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. It just means that this works for you, this doesn't work for me. So I always try and help them identify what's your core value. What is it that you really, really would like to have happen with your family? And then they identify that, and then hence a treatment plan is kind of established. And then from that treatment plan, we work on interventions and goals to try and reach this plan.
But that's something that you do with the family, right? So it's a whole
I don't go
holistic
in.
kind of thing.
There are some therapists that say, well, this is what you need to do. I've had to discharge some folks that had that thought process because it's not about you. It's not about you.
That's right.
And it is about what that family needs. And you need to really do research, because sometimes people feel like, well, I don't really have to. I know this child has attention deficit issues, and I know that this is what you do with a child who has attention deficit. But not all of it.
Yes.
It's when I raised Talisha and Timmy, I used to check in on a regular basis. Okay, on a scale 1 to 10, how am I doing as a mom? Until I learned that they learned that if they say a low number, I'll do something special for them. So they played me.
So they start giving you low
yes,
numbers.
yes. But and then a lot of people used to tell me that I involve them too much in life, and I said no, because if I don't tell them about it, somebody else is going to tell them about it, and that's not going to be the story that I want them to know. And so a lot of times, especially my mom would say, oh, Loren, they know too much about this. They know too much. No, they need to know, because if they don't know, then somebody's going to tell them. And, even there is somebody going to tell them regardless. But I just breaking the foundation. I told you this. And for a long, long time, when Timmy was getting in trouble, I really thought I was a terrible mom. I just didn't know how to do it, because I really didn't. We don't have males in our family. It's predominantly females. My Uncle Joey, who still lives here, God bless him, is the only male that's alive. He's in his 80s.
Oh,
but,
okay.
He was in the Air Force, I think in the Air Force. So he really wasn't interacting with family to see, how to be, somebody teach how to do man stuff. So I was reading a book. Okay, this is what you should do, and this is how you should do it. And no, that didn't really work. And, Talisha and Timmy's dad is from Princeton too. but he had some struggles. And so we kind of grew up. We were boyfriend and girlfriend. We were in 3rd grade over at John Witherspoon.
3rd grade.
And when I went away to college, I came back home, and the youth center, which is now the Arts Council, there was a party there. And me and my girlfriend Tina, my BFF, she said, oh, there's Melvin. I was like, oh, yes. And he had this nice blue Monte Carlo. I said, oh, Tina, we gonna ride. We ride tonight. She said, but he got a girlfriend. I said, we riding tonight. And he, we talked. And he said, I miss seeing you. I said, well, come up to Bloomfield. And that's where I went to go to college on my first go-round. And he came up, and he decided that we should be a couple again. And I stayed in school. He moved to New Brunswick. He worked here in Princeton. So New Brunswick was the kind of meeting point. And then Talisha came. And then Timmy came. And then school was like on the back burner.
Oh, got it.
And money and life became part of what I did. And so remember the movie Fun with Dick and Jane, how the guy lost his job. He was an aerospace person.
It was the first one or the second one? First one?
The first
the
one,
first one.
where him and his wife had to do bizarre things to pay their mortgage. And well, Melvin and I became people that did different things. But I learned that now that was part of my transitioning in life. I needed to learn that kind of stuff.
So do you also see that as preparation for the type of work that you actually gravitated towards?
Well, if somebody would have told me I was going to be a therapist, I would have said, no.
But in hindsight, you can see that
I absolutely can.
Yeah.
Because now I can see, okay, I was working with little kids. I loved having kids come over to the house. Even though I didn't really like them to be there a lot, it was okay if kids came over to the house. But teenagers, a lot of people don't like teenagers. I love teenagers. Because I think,
teenagers.
Because they are, they question things.
Right.
And for me, I was a questioner. My mother used to tell me, I'm your mother, that's the answer. So I swore to my children I would never say, this is the reason, because I'm your mother. Why is the sky blue? I'm going to look it up. And I actually bought them one of those books that says 1,000,001 Questions.
Oh, yeah. And so one of them is, why is the sky
yes,
blue?
Yes.
But you know what? And I think that's why a lot of people, they don't know the importance of, teaching the children, because you're really transitioning them to be an adult.
Yes.
You're training them to be an adult. Before it was, don't do as I say.
Yes, not as
I do. Because they were doing their stuff too. And then when we go and we find out what they're doing, we're going to be, we find out little things and going to start doing those things. But if we explain to the kids and be that role model that we should be for our children in preparation for them to be adults, to be successful adults, whether they're a garbage man or an attorney or doctor or whatever.
Right.
It's preparing them to be responsible, that transitioning, because it starts from when they start learning how to crawl and what they can get into up until adulthood. It constantly changing.
It's a constant change. And a lot of times parents will say things like, well, I want him to do this because this is what our family does. I understand that because that was me. But when I realized that that's not what this child wants to do, we had to sometimes, I don't want to say manipulate parents to help them understand that, no, I don't want to do that, especially when there's gender issues. It is very difficult for a Christian family with Christian values to accept that their child is homosexual. It's like, get out of my house because you believe it too. It's not what I believe, it's what your child believes. And if that's what your child believes, then we need to work on helping them accept who they are with the cutting and, you know, trying to overdose because they want their parents to accept them. And that's a really big, big issue. So
we actually have about 3 minutes.
Okay.
And so what I'd like you to do is maybe spend a minute and just let our audience know if someone is out there struggling with something, whether it's a family issue, a child, or something that someone might be going through personally.
Okay.
What are some of the steps that you would recommend that they take so that they can get the help that they need?
Okay. First and foremost, acknowledge. That's the big, big, big thing. Acknowledge that there is somebody else that might be able to assist you. And it is not a secret. You need to make sure you reach out. And the state of New Jersey has a hotline. It's Perform Care, 1-877-652-7624.
Okay.
That's the number when your child is having problems. I didn't have that with Timmy. And so I was on my own kind of feeling my way. But there's an opportunity now for people to get that service.
So can you say that number one more time, just in case somebody needs that?
1-877-652-7624.
Okay, excellent.
And the good thing about it is that if you want me or my organization to reach out and help you with your child, you can ask for We Help People, which is the name of the organization that I now have.
Yeah, so can you talk about that? We have like maybe about 2 minutes, but I want to
Okay.
make sure that you have at least a moment to talk about your specific organization as well.
Okay, so We Help People was birthed out of, like you said, trying to be a brick in people's foundation. One of my favorite quotes is, do as much as you can for as many people as you can for as long as you can, forever.
Yeah, I
and ever.
read that recently. Yeah.
Because I believe that if you pay it forward, it's going to come. And I have 5 grandbabies. I love them to life. So I need to make sure I can do whatever I can to help people do what needs to happen in their lives. So We Help People is an organization that's through Perform Care. And we go in home and work with children and their families that deal with anything from drug and alcohol to attention deficit to depression, all Axis 1 things. Mental retardation sometimes, DDD children sometimes. But it's important for you to know what's going on. So I always tell parents, know what's going on with your child in school. Don't let them come home and tell you that the teacher said so and so and so. Have an interaction with your teacher, because children lie. They just do. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm going to get a beating. They're not going to tell you. So you have to make sure you reach out to that child's teacher. And if they have a child study team evaluation, don't just let that be the end-all be-all. Research. Make sure you get a family support organization that's helping you to navigate that system, because it is tedious and it can be difficult. And you can say, you know what, this is too much. I can't do it. So there are some people that are out there that can help with children and families.
Okay, and the organization that you talked about, is that private, or do they get funding? Well, what I'm trying to say, can insurance, do they take
It's
insurance
free.
or free?
Oh,
Okay.
it's free.
It's free.
Free. Okay,
Perform
that's
Care
good.
is free.
Perform
Okay,
Care.
you heard it right here. Perform
Yes,
Care. Say
Perform
the
Care.
phone number one more time.
1-877-652-7624.
Excellent. Loren, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing some of your experiences. And I really appreciate the fact that you told some of your personal story as well, and just sort of pulling it all together. And hopefully someone will heed that call and take some steps to do something better in their lives. So I want to thank our audience for joining us at The Place to Soar, and we will see you next time.